there's a certain list that allegedly includes guys like Scott Pippen, Pete Sampras, Tiger Woods. Now, under normal circumstances, anybody would be proud to be mentioned in their company. Wouldn't you want to be on that list? One of the 50 greatest NBA players of all time. The man formerly recognized as the greatest male tennis player of all time. And the man who could have been the greatest golfer of all time. That's amazing company, right? Wrong. Because in addition to being legends in their sports, they're also famous for allegedly being greedy and cheap. And now, if reports are true, you can add another name to that list. And again, that is not an easy list to get onto. Do you know how cheap you have to be to get onto that list? Do you know how bad of a tipper you have to be to get onto that list? Matthew Gregory Kuchar. Governmented for all the wrong reasons. Matt Kuchar is a good golfer, even a very good golfer. But Matt Kuchar is getting a lot of bad press right now for a very good reason. Let's go ahead and set the stage. Back in November, he wins a tournament in Mexico. As Rex pointed out, that was his first win in 4 years. He did it with a local caddy, David Ortiz, instead of his regular caddy, John Wood. Now, the win was huge for Kuchar because it earned him nearly $1.3 million. This is where it gets interesting. The typical deal is that a player gives his caddy 5% of the winnings as a bonus, a higher percentage if it's a top 10 finish, and 10% for the win. Industry standard, that's what's accepted. So I break out my calculator. And Ortiz is looking at something in the neighborhood of $130,000. $130,000. And knowing how badly Kuchar needed that win, wanted that win, you've got to assume that he couldn't have been happier than to hook this guy up with that amount of money, right? In fact, I've heard other stories of guys that will go over the 10% because it was so big and so important. So Ortiz is on his bag. Kuchar gets his first win in nearly a half a decade, and he makes nearly $1.3 million. So he's got to chip off Ortiz $130 and feel good about it, right? So how much did he pay Ortiz? Hey, go ahead, Alvin, if you have a drum roll way back in there somewhere. Industry standard would have been 10%. And even more if you're a good guy. $130,000. Instead, Ortiz gets $5,000. He chipped him off $5,000. You just won $1.3 million, and you paid your caddy $5,000. Not only that, but Ortiz told golf.com that after he and Kuchar posed for photos following the win, Matt handed him an envelope with cash and said, quote, "There you go. Thank you. Bye." And then after the story hit social media and generated some steam, Ortiz said that he was offered an extra $15,000 by Kuchar and his reps. But he turned that down because he felt like he was owed more. And my response is, and I know some of you dopes will come in here and say, hey, man, that's on him. He turned it down. Let me tell you something. He turned it down and said he was owed more, and he's right. Hell yes, he's owed more. Let me give you some context. Ortiz isn't even saying that he wants the normal 10%. He's not even saying he wants the normal tour rate. And again, the normal tour rate would have been $130,000. This guy was looking for 50. 50. Still an amazing bargain for Kuchar's first win in 4 years. 130 would have been standard. This guy's looking for 50 and can't get anywhere near that. So Kuchar, what's his excuse? What's his story, right? Maybe something was taken out of context. Maybe there was some sort of arrangement that we don't know about. Here's what Kuchar says. He says their deal was for a flat rate, $3,000. $3,000 for the week, a bonus that could bump it all the way up to $4,000. And that by giving him $5,000, he was exceeding the deal that was in place, and that offering an extra 15 was actually incredibly generous. And here's a little more context. According to golf.com, quote, Ortiz lives in a small cinder block house that is a 20-minute bus ride to the course. He said with a more substantial payment, he and his common-law wife had hoped to start a laundromat. As for the $5,000 he made, Ortiz said most of it had been spent on painting the house, buying new curtains and a mirror for it, and flying his young daughter home from Veracruz, Mexico for Christmas. End of quote. So what's Kuchar's side of this? Kuchar, on the other hand, has made more than $46 million in career earnings. 10th on the all-time career money list. That's just earnings. That's not even endorsements. So he's 10th all-time on the career money list. And right now, my man is barreling past Pistol Pete and No Tippin' Pippen on the all-time cheapskate list, the all-time stingy list. I mean, was Ortiz worth it? Hell yes, he was worth it. Kuchar had no wins in the last 4 years. And then he gets a win with Ortiz. Man, give this guy his 10%. And then some. Hell, even if you don't think it was worth it, and it was, maybe you write the check just to make this go away. Because now you not only look cheap, stingy, you look like an idiot. You look idiotic. No wonder one anonymous player told golfchannel.com that Kuchar's payout was, quote, embarrassing. Because it is. But you know how this goes, right? The story's quiet for a while, then it bubbles up, and then Kuchar and his team come to their senses, and they get shamed into making things right for the caddy. Wrong again. Because this is what Kuchar said yesterday. Quote, it's done. Listen, I feel like I was fair and good. You can't make everybody happy. You're not going to buy people's ability to be okay with you. And this seems to be a social media issue more than anything. I think it shouldn't be, knowing that there was a complete, agreed-upon deal that not only did I meet, but exceeded. End quote. Man, holy crap. Holy crap. That's exactly how not to handle that. That is the worst playbook this guy could run. He went on to say this, quote, so, I certainly don't lose sleep over this. This is something I'm quite happy with. And I was really happy for him to have a great week and make a good sum of money. Making $5,000 is a great week, end quote. Dude, please tell me that you did not really say, after winning 1.3 mil, that making 5,000 is a great week. The only thing missing from the end of that sentence was, making 5,000 is a great week, especially for somebody who lives in a cinder block house. But not only was that all wrong and how he handled that, he wasn't even done. Quote, it's kind of too bad that it's turned into a story. I really didn't think it was a story because we had an arrangement when I started. I've done enough tournaments and had enough weekly caddies, and I'm very clear about what the payment will be. And we had an arrangement Tuesday that David was okay with, and I thought Sunday he was very much okay with it. I kind of feel like, unfortunately, some other people have got it in his head that he's deserving something different than what we agreed upon. And it's just too bad that it's turned into a story because it doesn't need to be, we had a great week, end quote. We had a great week. You had a great week. My man, it turned into a story because you made it a story. It's a story because you didn't handle your business. Again, even if you think he's jamming you, maybe you pay this man his money. You made 46 mil. 50 grand, I should say, is a rounding error. It's in your couch cushions. Let me tell you something. That kind of money would change that guy's life. The kind of money that anybody else would have made absolutely would change that guy's life. And maybe not just his life, maybe his kids' lives too. I mean, wouldn't you like that to be the story? Wouldn't that be a great story? I found this guy. He was a weekly caddy. I got my first win in 4 years. I chipped him off the 10% that everybody gets, and my man bought a house. My man's life was changed generationally. Wouldn't that be an amazing story? But no, you stick to your deal. You stick to your deal. You stick to the deal that you negotiated with him. Hey, and by the way, was that deal, hey, David, if I win $1.3 million, I'll give you an extra $2,000 on top of the $3 that we agreed to. Man, I hope that wasn't your deal. Because if that's your deal, man, that's a jackass move. Yeah, I know we agreed to $3,000, but I made 1.3 mil. Here's $2 more grand for you, bro. So you did have a great week. You had a great week, and then you went and ruined it. I mean, my man, you can't be this dumb, right? And when you're facing heat for it, you're not really going to stick to your guns on this one, are you, Matt? You're not going to really stick to, we had a deal, are you? Is that the hill you want to stake your reputation on? Man, tell me that's not what you're doing, Matt, because it sure looks like it. You had a chance for an awesome story, Matt. One where you get your first win in a long time and you change your caddy's life. Bro, that's Hollywood stuff right there. That's a Hollywood movie right there. Instead, you turned your first win in 4 years into a gigantic L. That is not the hill you want to die on. Except that's exactly the hill you're dying on. Welcome to the club. Kuchar. A club that you do not want to be in.
Kuchar.
Yo, meet Tiger. Meet Scott. Meet your bros. That is not a club you want to be in. And given how rich all these guys are, that's not a club that any of them should be in. And don't come in here and say, well, how do you think they got rich? Not by being cheapskate tippers, believe me. Bad story. All right, when we come back, hey, Clones, do what you want with that. I'm not talking about a guy whose nickname is Poop. But if you want to talk about a bad tipper, go right ahead. Not only did he get caught, he stuck to his guns. And is staying with that story.
Kuchar.